sure here that books on President Obama flew off the shelves leading up to his election and in the weeks after. How are his book sales doing 1 year later? Are people over him, or are they still excited about him?
Well, I don't think they're over him. I think everybody has a book. That's what it is. I don't think we'll ever get over President Barack Obama. You know, the distraction of his presidency, because he is the first African American, has caused some, you know, tumult in the industry. But I believe that you know, he ran on hope and he ran on change, and he very clearly said, I can't do it alone. And I think we have to recognize as people that government belongs to us and that we have to be totally involved in what's happening. I have never seen where so many people have come together to figure out how to help. You know, and we here in Harlem are doing our Power of One effort to help. I see people telling people to move their monies from the bank because we actually do have the power to help to make that change. But we think government is government, but we really are the government. And so as far as President Barack Obama is concerned, I'm enormously enamored by him. I do think he needs to bring the power to force right now. But I think for this last year, having to deal with not only what every other president had to deal with, but the institution of race, he has been amazingly gracious. And I think he's going to be fantastic.
You know, you mentioned hope and change. You mentioned hope and change. One of the slogans from people who are critics of Obama is, how's that hope and change working out for you now? What's your reaction when you hear that?
Well, I know that it's working out real well in Harlem because it has brought a consciousness to people where they realize they're involved in their own sufficiency. So self-sufficiency, understanding that you have the power to make that change, is something that's happening here. And we have effectively put a program together in Harlem called the Power of One, where 30 businesses have come together to support each other and to support the community, because we realize that if we create sustainability, you know, community by community, change can happen. So people are putting things in place that are the answer to the yes, we can. It's the action plan. And I believe that when you see things like move your money, if you really did, it would have an effect. That's an action plan. You know, the Power of One is an action plan. And there's so many people who are doing these mini action plans. We just have to keep doing them and not get tired and just keep doing them until we win. And community by community, community makes society, society makes nation. So we first change the community and then we change the nation.
Okay. Mr. Whye, Danny Glover, who was solidly behind Obama leading up to his election, made controversial comments when he likened President Obama to George Bush, indicating that black people are not as happy with him 1 year later as they were during his election. What's your take on that?
Well, he may be right in some respects. All right, and a lot has to do with how the hope and change machine has really translated into being a benefit for places like the streets of Harlem. What I am saying is that, you know, we all have to voice what our opinions are of the administration, whether it's good or bad. And, you know, a heart of hearts, if the election were tomorrow, I probably wouldn't be here. I'd be up the street working some streets and making sure we maximize the vote tomorrow for Barack. I mean, that's never leaving me. I am a strong supporter. I love this family. I love this family being in the White House. But that is not to say that we need more attention to the problems in our communities, meaning the rampant unemployment, the disparity, and that the focus of the people in the West Wing needs to shift from attention to the businesses to attention to the communities. I would never call Barack Obama George Bush. I mean, I think Danny was a little bit excited when he said that. Yeah. But if I'm going to call upon anybody to do anything, there's going to be two things. I want Barack to be a stronger Barack. all right? I want Barack to get in touch with the Barack that led this campaign to a win, all right? I want him to recognize who his true enemies are, all right? And it may not be all GOP, because when you look at some of the instances or what happened this year, all right, very early on, GOP was out of the picture. Very early on, they embraced a Reagan strategy, and I don't mean Ronald Reagan, I mean Nancy Reagan. They did the Nancy Reagan and just said no. And here was a marginalized party, a party that we were discussing in February as probably in their demise. They hung around, and they sprung back. And our problems with the votes weren't with Republicans because they were out of the picture. We were with Democrats. So we need our brother, president, to stand up and be the president and take over this party, and let's get some things done.
Okay, well, Mr. Whye, let me ask you this. Were black people a little too unrealistic in thinking that President Obama would be their savior exclusively? Are they disappointed? Were they realistic about this?
Well, this is not a matter of being unrealistic, because you have to understand that we have one of the most brilliant politicians ever in the White House right now. He is. What I see as the problem is, and it was sort of the same with Clinton the first year. You know, you had a campaign organization go into the White House. The organization that runs the campaign and gets that to win, it's not necessarily the same organization that should be governing. You know, it is not. And at some point, Clinton was confronted with this very early on, and he pushed some of the campaign operatives aside and brought in some people who could really govern. I call it the Stephanopoulus moment, you know, because you saw Stephanopoulus all over the place in the beginning of the administration, and then you saw him in a less compelling role. Then eventually, with the re-election, you saw him out. And the adjustment served Bill Clinton well. I think Barack needs a Stephanopoulus moment right now.
Okay. Let's turn to